Chapter 243 to 248. While they were leaving, Homosubi still didn't let down his guard and continued firing Susanoo Senbon from the chest part, shuriken from 2 arms of Susanoo, while also adding Yasukani Magatama amidst those shurikens and senbons made out of golden flames. And that wasn't all. The other 2 hands kept waving the twin golden flame swords continuously, which again caused devastating damage to the surroundings. These series of attacks, when combined, were no less catastrophic than the explosions caused by Bijudama. After making sure to leave horrifying scenery to be burned in the memory of all witnesses, Homosubi did not wait here to confirm the result of the battle, but chose to tacitly escape. As Fujin and Homosubi kept moving away from the battlefield, Homosubi turned back to look at the large mushroom-shaped cloud which rose to hundreds of meters in the sky and the endless sea of raging golden flames continuously spreading throughout the forest like an unstoppable forest fire, and nodded in appreciation towards his artwork. Although he wants to fight Raikage in a toe-to-toe battle, but not in the situation Homosubi is currently in. Kuroto's face under the Homosubi mask was extremely pale, as if all the blood was drained from the body, like a corpse, but that very face still had an unusual calmness on it, as if whatever he had done just now did not bother him. He knew that there are very small chances that Yondaime Raikage will be injured or burned by these attacks. Most likely Raikage would have managed to retreat considering how fast his speed is, but that did not matter anymore. This is just the start. With this series of events, Amatsukami has taken a solid footstep into the shinobi world and will soon become so fearful that no Kage would ever think or dare to face any of its members head-on. Cough cough. As another violent fit of coughing started, he had to withdraw his gaze. At this time, the speed at which the Susanoo armor was dispersing also hastened, and the outer armor started becoming blurry, transparent, and soon disappeared. Following which the turbulent golden flames that were ignited around the Susanoo armor also went out. Then came the next layer, which was the skin and musculature, and then the final one, the golden-orange skeletal body of the Susanoo was left. However, the skeletal body projection of the Susanoo also did not last for very long, and soon disappeared without a trace. As soon as the Susanoo armor dispersed, the Manjikyu wheel in the eyes also stopped spinning and deactivated soon enough, first retracting back to the 3-tomo state, then to the onyx black color. But his cough still did not subside, rather escalated, and the blood that has been continuously coming out of his throat could no longer be held back. Removing the mask, Kuroto did not hold it back anymore and let it flow out. As a result, he vomited out a large amount of blood from his mouth and nasal cavity. His hand and chest were already soaked, and he suddenly started to feel dizzy and soon collapsed. Although not unconscious, he didn't have any more strength or energy to get up anymore. Kuroto tried to take some deep breaths to calm and restore. The Ryumyaku also helped in treating the body to some extent, and soon enough he was in a state where he could at least think, if anything. Being able to think and process allowed Kuroto to analyze the current state of this clone body, and damn, he could only sigh helplessly. The clone body was in a terrible condition, such that there was not even a single body part that might have remained unaffected, but that is also natural. To be honest, Kuroto isn't really surprised by the terrible state that the clone body is in. Using Susanoo is highly burdensome even for the Uchiha, and here Kuroto not only used Susanoo, but also the other 2 techniques of the Manjikyu Sharingan simultaneously with the Susanoo, and that too when this clone body wasn't even cultivated with the intentions of being able to use Manjikyu Sharingan. As such, the burden he was put under was really too much and highly unbearable. He even estimates that he would have already collapsed while fighting Raikage if not for continuously using Yaoyorozu. If any other shinobi who has just transplanted Manjikyu Sharingan pair is switched in his place and is asked to do what he was doing, that is using all 3 of Manjikyu Sharingan abilities at the same time, they might just fall in eternal sleep just by attempting to do so. In fact, only using the Susanoo would also be too much for them. Using Manjikyu Sharingan without Uchiha clan genetics will always be a drag. I'll have to see that the next thing I focus upon is making a clone body with the Uchiha clan DNA, thought Kuroto. He can now judge that no matter the Kekii Genkai, those without the true DNA for that ability will always have a hard time mastering it, and even if they do master it somehow by whatever method, for instance, by stealing it as he did with this pair of Manjikyu Sharingan, they will still never be able to showcase its full potential unless they are genetically apt with it. And this is true even in Kuroto's case. The body he is using now is cultivated from his genetics purely, and the quality of the clone is also not much high in comparison to Suijin clone body or his main body, but considering that this clone body is his, that alone makes it have good basic stats. In terms of strength alone, this clone body reaches the level of a Jonin without counting the Manjikyu Sharingan of course, so it does surpass the majority of the shinobis, and yet it collapsed so easily because of the burden imposed by a pair of Manjikyu Sharingan. And this has been proven again and again by the likes of Kakashi, Nagato, and Danzo from the original Naruto series. All three of them were able to use the transplanted eyes, but neither of them was ever able to bring out their true potential. The reason for this? There are many, but one of the major reasons is the lack of proper genes on the battlefield. At this time, the massive 8 tails of Hachibi retracted, revealing 2 figures they were guarding. These 2 people are obviously none other than the Reikage and the Hachibi's Jinchuriki, Killer Bee. Homosubi's frantic attacks just now also posed a huge threat even for Kumobikyu's AB combo. Especially the last sword attacks and the fact that Homosubi actually even threw off those 2 swords from the air using Susanoo. Those 2 swords flew at an extremely fast speed and were directly aimed at the heads of AB combo. If not for Killer Bee's instant approach to shield them inside the Bija's defense, then it is hard to say whether Reikage would have survived that attack even after taking the sturdy defense of his body into account. Coming out unscathed, Reikage looked around the battlefield with a gloomy expression. Right now, he can see many things on the battlefield: the devastated forest, sea of golden fire that was spreading everywhere and burning anything and everything to cinders that it came into contact with, massive ravines caused by sword-slashed, cracked up ground, and pits because of giant chakra Senbon and Susanoo punches, and much more, but the only thing he couldn't see the presence of the 2 members of Amatsukami. That is to say, both of their presence has long since disappeared. Apparently, they managed to escape using the chaos to their advantage. When he thought of the fact that both members of Amatsukami managed to slip away from his hands, I couldn't help but feel anger surging inside him. Gritting his teeth in frustration, I slammed the ground with his fist and roared, "Damn it!" And not far away, Killer Bee crouched on the ground and curiously looked at the burning golden flames in front of him. He outstretched his finger and tried touching the golden flames in front of him, and soon cried out in pain, "Ouch, ouch, 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 burns, burns, it burns." Reikage, who was already very frustrated, gave Killer Bee a punch in the head, which soon turned into a bump, while also added, "Idiot, don't touch that fire. These are obviously not your regular flames." "Fear not, brother, I am stronger, Bakayaro Kanayaro." P.S. That's the only rhyme I could come up with. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Before Reikage could continue chiding Bee, one after another, silhouettes of shinobi started to appear on the battlefield, and these shinobi had 3 different styles of clothing they wore. Few were dressed in Kumobikyur shinobi uniform, while some were in Konoha Umbu gear, subunit root, and the rest were dressed in Konohagakure shinobi vests. These shinobi are obviously members of the Kumo unit led by Reikage, as well as Konoha shinobi who were chasing after the 2 members of Amatsukami. Reikage was long since aware of them and was not surprised by their arrival. Instead, as soon as that particular person appeared on the battlefield, Reikage turned towards him and shouted, "You of Konoha are really incompetent. What good was the entire encirclement when both of the members of Amatsukami managed to escape so easily?" Shimura Danzo, who was observing the battlefield and some of the signs that very much reminded him of that mountain collapse a few days ago, tapped his cane on the ground upon hearing Reikage's words and snorted coldly. Reikage Dano's method of single-handed approach also didn't work, or did it? I did not have any words to refute Danzo's taunt and could only say, "I really don't understand why there are so many defected nin from Konohagakure. Hokage should be ashamed of himself that so many of his shinobi are betraying the village one after another." Shimura Danzo obviously wanted to refute those words, but when he opened his mouth to speak something, Danzo was at a loss. Nothing came to him that could counter Reikage's words. In the eyes of the public, a shinobi who has Manjikyu Sharingan is obviously a member of the Uchiha clan of Konoha. It does not matter whether he has betrayed the village or not, but this fact remains unchanged, so it is very reasonable to classify Homosubi as a former member of the Uchiha clan. And counting Homosubi together with Orochimaru, Hirako, Uchiha Shinichi, etc., it wouldn't be wrong to say that half of the missing nin, regardless of whether they belong to Amatsukami or Akatsuki, have belonged to Konohagakure at some point in time and have now defected. Because most of these shinobi have defected during the reigning period of Sandaime Hokage, then obviously he must be ashamed of himself. Someone who can't even keep the subordinates under him in check is totally unworthy to be a kage of a shinobi village. Therefore, even if he tries to think of something to counter Reikage's words, Shimura Danzo couldn't think of anything that would pose a sound argument. While both parties stood in silence and all the other shinobi that were present around did not dare to interrupt anything, Uchiha Fugaku and Uchiha Shisui arrived at the battlefield, and they were also followed by many other shinobi who were part of the units led by Fugaku. Fugaku had a grim expression as he looked at the battered up and the burning battlefield. Just seeing the scene before him, Fugaku can roughly judge how the fight between Amatsukami and Kumogakure's AB combo turned out. While Fugaku was busy thinking some things, Shursui sighed in relief. He was really worried about what would happen when he learned that Yandere Reikage and the Jinchuriki of Hachibi had managed to knock down the escaping Amatsukami members. Although he understands that Kuroto-san's strength is very high, Shursui wasn't sure whether Kuroto-san would be able to resist the combined might of AB combo. After all, both of them working together undoubtedly makes the strongest tag team. The reason for worry was more reasonable, because Kuroto-san didn't have Byakugan in his eye sockets, rather it was a pair of Manjikyu Sharingan, so he would obviously not be able to use that chakra mode, right? Fugaku obviously wasn't aware of Shursui's worry, and after signaling him to follow behind, Fugaku once again glanced at the battlefield and walking towards Danzo and Reikage, he said, Shursui managed to extract some information out of Homasubi while the two were fighting, and according to what he has obtained, soon Amatsukami will be targeting the bijou of the different shinobi villages. What? Both Reikage and Danzo were shocked by this news and exclaimed in unison. Danzo was surprised because he couldn't quite understand Amatsukami's purpose for eyeing the bijou. After all, someone like Konohagakure, who is the strongest of all the shinobi villages, can't properly control the bijou, so why would Amatsukami want bijou? Was it just so that they can gain war weapons? This cannot be the only reason. Because they would be extremely stupid if that is true. After all, controlling bijou is obviously extremely difficult, and if Amatsukami is eyeing bijou understanding this, then does that mean they have some means to control bijou? But if they start eyeing bijou, Amatsukami will make itself an enemy of the 5 great shinobi villages at the same time. Would they be foolish enough to take such risks? Because offending 1 or 2 shinobi villages at the same time in itself is extremely foolish, not to mention offending all 5 great villages at the same time. Or do they have the confidence to take on the combined might of the 5 great shinobi nations and still come out unscathed? So, many questions, but not a single answer. Contrary to Danzo, who was confused and trying to figure out Amatsukami's purpose for going after bijou, I was extremely angry as soon as he heard this information. He didn't expect that Amatsukami would have enough courage to eye the bijous. Today, Kumogakure has 3 shinobi who reach the level of a Kage, and 2 of them are obviously Jinchuriki of their respective bijou, and if Amatsukami manages to steal both the bijou, then that would put Kumogakure in an extremely passive position. Not to mention, one of the Jinchuriki of Hachibi is Killer B, who is his sworn brother, so upon learning the news that Amatsukami is eyeing bijou, Reikage clutched his fist in anger. Whether for his village or for his brother, he would not let those bastards have their way anymore. Now things just got personal between him and Amatsukami. Danzo noticed Reikage's reaction to the news and spoke after thinking a little bit. Amatsukami's threat is greater than we initially expected, not to mention their intentions are more harmful to the entire shinobi world. The other shinobi villages must also be informed of the news that Amatsukami is eyeing the 9 bijou. As such, I suggest that we must convene a Gakage summit as soon as possible to discuss a suitable method to deal with the rising threat posed by these upstart bounty nin organizations. Reikage thought for a while, and he also understood the threat posed by these bounty nin organizations and nodded in agreement. As Yandere Reikage, I agree to the proposal to convoke the second Gakage summit. Inside Kuroto's secret laboratory. Phew, when his soul returned to his main body, Kuroto finally breathed a long sigh of relief. He felt very relaxed and energetic, as if his soul was very lively. Looking at the clone body lying on the test bench, Kuroto had a contemplative look on his face. For the past few days that he has been Sharingan and Manjikyu Sharingan, he has deeply experienced the difference between Sharingan and Byakugan. At the same time, Kuroto has also developed a personal understanding of Manjikyu Sharingan. And from his personal experience, the first conclusion that Kuroto has reached is that Kakashi is really worth respecting. To be able to bear continuous chakra drain and an additional burden imposed by Sharingan for almost 2 decades is really not an easy feat. Not to mention he isn't an Uzumaki or Senju, neither does he has Hashirama cells transplanted into his body, nor does he have any bijou to support him, and yet he managed to keep that Sharingan for almost 2 decades. That's something really worth respecting. Kakashi might really have the potential to reach Super Kage level in strength if not for the restraint that Sharingan put on him. Kuroto muttered with emotion, but soon he calmed himself down and focused on the matter at hand. Kuroto knows that it is impossible for him to convince Kakashi to give up that Sharingan, and doing so forcefully would only have a negative impact. Therefore, he decided to not think about this matter for now and focused on the clone lying on the test bench. Taking out the experimental records log, Kuroto began recording the data of this clone, which is way past the stage where it could be recovered or healed. He then analyzed and compared the recorded data with the data he recorded at the time of taking out this clone from the nutrition tank and found that the most severely injured part of the clone was its nervous system. And even in the nervous system, the damage was most severe to the cranial nerves, whether it was the optical nerves or the oculomotor nerves. Both of them were way beyond recovery even with the best Iryo ninjutsu. Why are cranial nerves most damaged? Kuroto muttered to himself, I guess it's because the ocular nerves of this clone couldn't bear the burden of Manjikyu Sharingan for too long and were damaged beyond recovery. This does sound reasonable. After recording some more of his analysis about Manjikyu Sharingan in the experimental log, Kuroto removed the Manjikyu Sharingan pair from the eye sockets of the clone body and then processed the clone to be destroyed. At this point, the Manjikyu Sharingan project has finally come to an end. In the whole project, including the 2 clones that Kuroto destroyed to make the Uchiha brothers witness the death of their brothers, the clone that Ryota destroyed at the time of escaping from his prison cell, and this final clone that Kuroto himself destroyed, he has destroyed a total of 4 clones. Combining the total cost of all the raw materials that were used up to cultivate these 4 clones, then the cost of these 4 clones is worth more than 70 million ryo. And if he adds up the loss of equipment, cost of construction of the prison dungeon, as well as the various props and pieces of equipment that were required to carry out this whole Manjikyu Sharingan project, definitely exceeds 100 million ryo. And this is just the start. Any high-end experiment project involving any field requires a lot of economic funding, something that only a daimyo, a shinobi village, or some extremely rich such clans and families can afford. Individual shinobi, such as him or Orochimaru, without a suitable background funding will always be constrained by their budget unless they have a source of solid funding. But there is nothing he can do about this issue for now. After destroying the clone, Kuroto thought of his short fight with Kumobikyu's AB combo. In the original Naruto story, Yondaime Reikage did not have many records, but the few records or battles that he had were very meaningful and clearly dictated his strength. Especially the fight he had with Uchiha Sasuke at the Gakage Summit in the Land of Iron. The speed and strength he showcased at that time were extreme. Reikage was even able to dodge Amaterasu while in his lightning release chakra mode. That alone is an accomplishment worth mentioning. After all, the appearance of Amaterasu is at the same instant that Sasuke would use the ability of his left Manjikyu, and being able to dodge something so dangerous in such a short instant is incredible indeed. If Yondaime Reikage had shown some degree of restraint in that battle, did not recklessly attack the Amaterasu encased Susanoo with the intent of sacrificing his arm if necessary, then he might have truly killed Uchiha Sasuke in that battle. After all, at that time, Sasuke not only had to maintain Susanoo armor but had to also use Amaterasu and Kagutsuchi to cover the Susanoo armor with the black flames using the shape transformation. Simultaneously using all the 3 Manjikyu Sharingan dojutsu is obviously not easy even for the shinobi of Uchiha clan, therefore Sasuke had to bear a great amount of burden at that time and he wouldn't have lasted much longer if Reikage had opted to have a battle of endurance while also simultaneously putting enough pressure on Sasuke to keep him on edge. And then there is Killer Bee, the Jinchuriki of Hachibi, who singled out the entire Team Taka and almost killed Uchiha Sasuke, if not for Yugo, to save Sasuke at that time by merging some of his cells with Sasuke. Then Sasuke might have been done for at that time. And even then, Killer Bee might have killed the complete Team Taka if he didn't use that opportunity to sneak out of the village to take a holiday. From both of these battles, it wouldn't be wrong to judge that whether it is Yondaime Reikage or the Jinchuriki of Hachibi, both of them had strength higher than Uchiha Sasuke when he awakened the Manjikyu Sharingan. Although, we have to also take into account that Sasuke had just awakened Manjikyu Sharingan and did not master that completely at that time, while both I and Killer Bee were already through countless battles and were more than familiar with their powers. Still, it wouldn't be wrong to say that both of their strength reaches a high-tier Kage level. And when these two works together as the AB combo, they really make the strongest duo. Therefore, the fact that Kuroto managed to escape from them is also not a small achievement. The next thing Kuroto thought was about the suspicions on Shursui. I made such big disturbances this time as Homusubi, so the suspicions on Shursui should be completely cleared up. Now that the suspicions on Shursui are cleared up, Kuroto can calmly carry out the fusion of the 2 Manjikyu Sharingan pairs into the Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan and the Fire Nature clone with Uchiha genetics. But as said before, to fuse the 2 pairs of Manjikyu Sharingan into Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, he has to first learn the transcription seal, and for that purpose, Kuroto will have to seek Shursui's help. Because Kuroto thinks that only Uchiha clan will have the knowledge of this seal, and there will be no scroll in Konoha's ninjutsu library about it. It is because all the time transcription came into play in the canon, all the time it was used by the Uchiha, and nobody else. Therefore, Kuroto thinks that this technique must be in the hands of the Uchiha Patriarch. So, only Shisui can help Kuroto with this. Then next comes the matter of fire nature clone with Uchiha clan genetics. When thinking about this matter, Kuroto is in a bit of a bind. The issue that is entangling him is the choice of genetics. Whose genetics should he choose from? There are too many options that he has. To be honest, if it is up to Kuroto, then Uchiha Madara is undoubtedly his first choice, but Kuroto did not consider this option more than a few seconds. This is because of two reasons. First is that Uchiha Madara's body age is really old, so even if he was a beast in his prime and the first and the only person after the Sage of Six Paths to have awakened the Rinnegan, his body would have undoubtedly deteriorated to the point that Kuroto doubts whether the cultivated clone will be good enough. The second and more important reason is that the place where Uchiha Madara's body is located/buried should only be known to Obito and Zetsu. Therefore, Kuroto has no way of finding where that body is located, and he certainly does not have enough time to specifically search for that location. So, the option of using Madara's genetics is directly ruled out by Kuroto. Then the next few choices that Kuroto has are Hideki, Ryota, Fugaku, Shinichi, Shisui, Itachi, and even Sasuke is available for Kuroto to choose from. Rubbing his hand over his chin, Kuroto muttered, which one to choose from, Fugaku? Hideki? Ryota? Shinichi? Shisui? Itachi? Or Sasuke? While rubbing his chin, Kuroto muttered with a thoughtful expression, I suppose I should not count Uchiha Fugaku as an option. It's because obtaining his cells would be very troublesome, so it's best that I don't take him as an option. And the next is Sasuke. Aside from Madara, Sasuke is technically the best option, but I am not sure if I should use his cells and DNA for the clone. After all, he is the current reincarnation of Otsutsuki Indra. Therefore, it is hard to judge how will Rikudo Sennin respond if I create a clone with the chakra of the current reincarnation of Indra. It is obviously hard to infer Rikudo Sennin's thinking in regards to his two sons. Whether he is keeping a watch over Sasuke and Naruto and what are his plans for them is not something Kuroto can understand. After all, Rikudo Sennin has existed for centuries already. Even if he is in his soul form after death, Rikudo Sennin is undoubtedly the current strongest being on the planet. Therefore, I think that it is the best choice to not do anything that might offend him or leave a negative opinion towards me. What's more, Sasuke's Yin chakra is probably the strongest, so that would probably unbalance the intensity of 7 chakra natures at the time of fusion through chimera technique. As such, it's best to avoid using his cells for creating the clone. After excluding Fugaku and Sasuke, the remaining choices that he is left with are Hideki, Ryota, Shinichi, Shisui, and Itachi. Among these 5, Shisui and Itachi are obviously the most talented, and it is very difficult for even Kuroto to judge whose talent is higher among the two of them. If the age at which they awaken Manjikyu Sharingan is taken into account, then that obviously Shisui seems to be more talented, but then we have to also consider that Shisui was born before Itachi and experienced more stimulations during the Third Great Shinobi War, so he was able to awaken Manjikyu Sharingan at a younger age compared to Itachi. Other than the age of activating Manjikyu Sharingan, both of them are impeccable in all other shinobi arts, so it wouldn't be wrong to say that both of them are equally talented, so both of them seem to be the best options. Thinking up to here, Kuroto suddenly remembered, but Itachi's illness. The illness Itachi suffered from was a bit mysterious. There were many speculations and theories about it. Some stated that Itachi suffered from some sort of lung disease, while others pointed to the illness being the result of the overburden because of being too strong for his own good. It could be possible that Itachi suffered from his Manjikyu power being too strong and his body was unable to bear the burden it caused. As a result, he lacked the necessary stamina to partake in drawn-out battles. The illness could also be the result of his desire to die because of guilt. After all, depression, despair, and desire to seek death can stem from various causes that would ultimately kill you. It's similar to how the Solomon Islands cursing works. Then again, his illness could also be a result of a bloodline illness. So it is very difficult for Kuroto to judge what kind of illness Itachi suffered from, but one thing that is very clear is the fact that this illness took away Itachi's life. So without having a proper understanding of the true cause, it is best not to use Itachi's cells. After all, if Itachi is suffering from bloodline disease, then his cells are obviously not suitable for making the fire chakra clone. Therefore, Shisui's cells seem to be a better option of the two. Although both Itachi and Sasuke are also very good choices, there are still some hidden dangers in choosing them, but no such danger is associated with Shisui, so it is obviously better for Kuroto to not take unnecessary risks. And Shisui's talent is unquestionably superior to Hideki and Ryota, so there is no need for consideration. Finally, there is also an option of choosing Shinichi, but I guess I will start with Shursui. If my and Shursui's cells do not have compatibility, then I guess I will try using Shinichi's or Itachi's cells. Till then, using Shursui's cells is fine. With that decided, Kuroto packed up everything and left the secret laboratory. 1 week later. In this 1 week, the various units part of the hunting operation carries out some intensive search to locate Homosubi and the other member of Amatsukami, but since there was no result, so the troops returned back to the village. The shinobi who participated in the encirclement operation brought back all sorts of news with them, and aside from the classified news that was not to be released in public, most of this news was now the talk of the village. Konoha's repeated failure to capture or kill Amatsukami only flared up Amatsukami's reputation, and people even started to wonder whether Amatsukami was truly an organization with God's part of it, as its name suggests. Of course, such devoted religious people were very few and were mostly ignored by others. Although the intelligence about Amatsukami's next target being the 9 Bijou was not made public, the threat that Amatsukami poses to Konoha and the other 4 great shinobi villages was now more than ever clear to the high level of all the villages. Aside from all this, what was important was that rumors about Shursui being Homosubi were completely cleared up, as Shursui's and Homosubi's fight was now public knowledge. With suspicions on him cleared, Shursui was no longer subjected to house arrest and was now again free. After regaining his freedom, the first thing that Shursui did was obvious. He hurriedly rushed towards Kuroto's home as he was in desperate need of so many answers, and only Kuroto had those answers that he needed. Arriving at Kuroto's home, he knocked on the door. Knock. 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 A few seconds later the door was opened. Oh, it turns out to be Shursui-kun, please come in. Shursui is both a member of the same Umbu squad as Kuroto and also a regular visitor to Kuroto's home, therefore Yui is very familiar with Shursui and welcomed him inside very enthusiastically. Sometimes when she sees Kuroto and Shursui working together or discussing some things, she even feels that both of them are like siblings. Shursui nodded politely, "Thank you, Yui-san," and followed her to Kuroto's study. Kuroto, who was busy doing some work, was not surprised by Shursui's arrival and nodded for him to take a seat. Yui also sat on the other side of the kotatsu, and seeing that Kuroto was still busy, she decided to ask Shursui a few things that she was somewhat curious about. So, Shursui-kun, I heard that you fought against Homosubi of Amatsukami again. Is he really that powerful, as powerful as the rumors describe him to be? Shursui was a little embarrassed by Yui's question and glanced towards the so-called Homosubi sitting on the side, seeing that the Homosubi that he fought against a few days ago had no intentions of speaking anything. Shursui scratched his hair awkwardly and nodded. He is really strong. He was even able to hold his own against Kumobikyu's AB combo, which in itself dictates just how strong Homosubi is. Hearing the word Kumo AB combo, Yui was a bit worried and turned towards Kuroto. She wanted to speak something, but it was better to not be spoken in Shursui's presence. Kuroto seemed to have noticed Yui's worry, so he put down the scroll in his hand and said, "Don't mind Shursui's presence, you can speak freely, there is no need to be worried." Yui looked at Kuroto, then turned towards Shursui and then again towards Kuroto, and spoke, "Will you really be alright, Kuroto-kun? All the members of Amatsukami seem to be extremely strong. One can fight against Yondaime Reikage and Jinchuriki of Hachibi at the same time, while the other can fight against Sandaime Sama and still manage to escape. Amatsukami is too dangerous, even Shursui-kun says so." Right. Shursui-kun? See. He is agreeing. Should we mention this matter to Hayashi-sama, so that he can, make arrangements with Sandaime-sama? As the last words came, Yui's voice kept going light and light. If not for the fact that both Kuroto and Shursui being extremely perceptive, they might not have been able to hear the last part. And hearing Yui's words, Kuroto snorted in contempt towards Amatsukami. What dangerous? Just some small-time mercenary organization, they even have the gall to name themselves Amatsukami? All they do is hide and don't even dare to come forward. From beginning to end, all they do is run away. In fact, I am telling you, whether it was against Sandaime Sama or AB combo, both the time what Amatsukami did was run away. The last time I and Shursui encountered them, we were unprepared and were ambushed by 3 of them at once. If not for that, we would have obviously defeated them. When I meet them next time, you will see the result. As soon as she heard Kuroto's words, Yui complained, "You always do this, Kuroto-kun, and I hate this." Speaking up to here, she turned towards Shursui and requested sincerely, "Shursui-kun, I want to ask you something, will you please consider it?" Shursui, who was suddenly brought to attention, hurriedly nodded. "Yui-san, just speak, what is your request?" If I can do it, or it is within my power to be able to do it, I will definitely do my best to help out." Yui glanced towards Kuroto with the corner of her eye, then turned back towards Shisui and spoke. Kuroto-kun always does this. In order for me to not worry, he always lighten up the threat posed by anyone when speaking about anything. He would look down on all the enemies and all when describing them to me. In fact, he even omits out most of the details where his life was in danger. Although I understand why he does this, it still does not relieve me. Moreover, I don't even understand where Kuroto-kun's confidence comes from. To be able to look down on people such as Homosubi and Suijin, Sai, even Hizashi-sama said that Amatsukami is very dangerous, and here he is treating them as nothing. I can't speak about this to Kakashi-kun because of his. Well, I can't speak about this to Kakashi-kun due to certain reasons, and Gai-kun is just too weird and I am not too sure how to talk to him about this, so you are the only person I can ask of. Everyone knows that after awakening Manjikyu Sharingan, you are no longer a normal shinobi. Your strength obviously surpasses all 4 of your squad. So will you please do me this favor and look after Kuroto-kun and make sure that he doesn't get careless and, when performing missions? But Kuroto-san, Shisui opened his mouth to speak, but he didn't know what to say anymore. Protect him? Protect him what? Amatsukami? What a joke. He is the leader of Amatsukami. And he is sitting right here. Aside from Amatsukami, even if a threat of such a level that could endanger Kuroto really existed, and if Kuroto-san couldn't deal with it with his strength, then Shisui can be sure that there are very fewer chances that he would be able to deal with it. Seeing that Shisui seemed to have some reservations, Yui said with a worried tone, Shisui-kun, is my request really so troublesome? Hearing Yui's request, Shisui was more embarrassed and looked at Kuroto as if asking, what should I do? Kuroto also didn't know what to say and could only give him a look that said, don't ask me. Shisui's look changed from what should I do to then who should I ask if not from you? You don't need to ask Kuroto-kun's opinion on this. This is a request I am making and Kuroto-kun would obviously not deny my request, right Kuroto-kun? Yui asked Kuroto with a very sweet look that sent chills down Kuroto's spine. He knew that if he said anything other than a nod, he wouldn't be getting any food for the next whole month. Kuroto hurriedly nodded. Never anger or offend your woman, the consequences would be too terrible, and Kuroto has no desire to face those consequences. With Kuroto's nod, Yui again turned towards Shisui and spoke, you see? Kuroto-kun doesn't have any problem with it, now will you consider my request? Shisui sighed helplessly and nodded, Alright, you don't need to worry Yui-san. I will take good care of Kuroto-san. Finally, Kuroto said to Yui with a smile, okay, no matter how strong Amatsukami may be, it won't be stronger than Konoha. You don't need to worry about these issues. For now, what you need to focus on is your training, Yui. I hope you remember my words and understand what I said back then. That aside, I have some important matters to discuss with Shisui, so you can leave us be and finish the things that you have to do. Yui nodded, well, I understand. I have some matters to take care of. I will leave you both to your devices. By the way, Shisui-san, would you like to have dinner with us today? No, I wouldn't want to intrude. Shisui said. It's not troublesome at all. After all, I will obviously be cooking dinner for both Kuroto-kun and myself, so adding for you would require the same amount of work, therefore, there is no trouble. Besides, there are very few opportunities when Kuroto-kun stays at home because of all the missions and all, and we would really love it if you would have dinner with us, right Kuroto-kun? Kuroto nodded, right. Have dinner with us. This is actually a good thing. Shisui is also an orphan just like Kuroto, so he obviously stays alone, therefore, it would be better for Shisui if he gets to experience some familial environment. Seeing that both Kuroto and Yui insisted, Shisui finally relented and nodded, alright, I will be troubling you then. In that case, I will be going shopping. I have to make sure that something good is cooked tonight that Shisui-san will love. Yui said with a cheerful look. Please don't push yourself too hard, Yui-san. Shisui said. Don't worry. Yui said to Shisui, nodded towards Kuroto. She got up, left the room. A few minutes later, she came back with a tray carrying 2 teacups, hot water, tea powder, matcha tea leaves, and some rice crackers for snacks. Without interrupting the light discussion that Kuroto and Shisui were having, she brewed the tea for 2, placed the cup before them, placed the rice crackers, and then left. As soon as Yui left, Shisui couldn't hold himself anymore and hurriedly asked, Kuroto-san, what was up with that Manjikyu Sharingan pair that you had in your eye sockets at that time? Kuroto didn't directly answer the question, but took out a storage scroll, printed the required hand seals, and tapped on it with his right hand. Poof. Poof. With a soft sound, white smoke appeared over the scroll. As soon as the shite smoke cleared away, 2 small glass capsules appeared before the two. Looking through the glass cover of the capsule, Shursui noticed some light green solution that filled the capsule and 2 spherical objects floating within the light green solution in each capsule. As soon as he saw the 2 objects floating inside the nutrition capsule, Shursui's eyes narrowed, because those 2 objects make up a pair of eyes, and not just any pair of eyes, they are Sharingan. But Shursui was doubtful about something. These are Sharingan? Kuroto nodded casually. Right, these 2 pairs of Sharingan belonged to Uchiha Hideki and Uchiha Ryota. Although Shursui expected this result when his doubt was confirmed, Shursui had a complicated and saddened look. He understands that Hideki's and Ryota's death was inevitable, but seeing their eyes floating in the capsule, Shursui only feels guilty that he didn't choose any other method. Kuroto saw that although a little saddened, Shursui was still calm, so he decided to drop the bigger bombs. Both of these pairs of Sharingan are Manjikyu Sharingan. And boy did it work. What? Shursui suddenly exclaimed and stood up at his position when he heard Kuroto's words, looking at him with an incredible expression. Seeing that Kuroto-san doesn't seem to be joking, he looked at the 2 pairs of Sharingan that are actually Manjikyu Sharingan pair with inexplicable expression. How is this even possible? Kuroto didn't answer this question, as Shursui should already know how a pair of Manjikyu Sharingan is born. Instead, he pointed at one of the capsules and said, "This pair of Manjikyu Sharingan belongs to Uchiha Ryota, and it is this pair that I was using when I enacted as Homusubi." Shursui looked at the 2 pairs of Manjikyu Sharingan, then turned towards Kuroto and asked seriously, "Kuroto-san, what did Ryota and Hideki go through so that both of them awakened Manjikyu Sharingan?" Since Kuroto showed both of the Manjikyu Sharingan pairs to Shursui, naturally he does not intend to conceal what he put Ryota and Hideki through. As such, he briefly mentioned the Manjikyu Sharingan project to Shursui. Of course, Kuroto did not disclose everything and only roughly mentioned some of the details of the experiment with just a few words that would give Shursui a general idea of what exactly he did. After listening to Kuroto's words, Shursui's conscience was screaming to him, "Kuroto-san, you really are a cruel person." From a rational point of view, Kuroto's Manjikyu Sharingan project is not only a test on living humans but is actually mind-breaking gruesome torture. Of course, that's not a problem, as shinobi have to constantly torture out all sorts of intelligence out of their enemies, so torture is not that big of a deal, and even human experimentation is also not wrong. After all, if you don't study all sorts of things, then how will new things be researched? What's important is that the subjects used for torture and human experimentation generally are enemies and criminals. But here the subjects of the experimentation were neither enemies nor criminals. Putting them through such a stimulation test is really inhuman. But considering the fact that both Hideki and Ryota would have been killed anyway, so whether the stimulation tests were carried out or not does not change their inevitable death. In the first case, they would have met a simple death, but because of the Manjikyu Sharingan project, that was no longer the case. And the result of this project also cleared up the suspicions on Shursui, at the same time created another Homusubi of Amatsukami who poses a great threat towards the Uchiha clan and the village. So, to a certain extent, this whole Manjikyu Sharingan project helped in saving the Uchiha clan from heading towards destruction in one way or the other. But with human beings' hypocritical nature, no matter how rational and correct something is, they would feel some sort of aversion and rejection towards certain things. What's more, the test subjects Kuroto used were still living and breathing Uchiha clan members who were not even charged with any crimes. As such, Shursui can't help but feel a bit of disgust after hearing such a thing. It is basic human nature and there is nothing wrong with it. Unless you are too familiar with such things, you would naturally be repelled. Therefore, Kuroto did not mind Shursui's words. He knows that he was cruel towards them. Kuroto is not a saint like Uzumaki Naruto, nor does he plan to become one. He would do what's necessary, irrespective of whether that is morally a good thing or bad thing. It does not matter to him. Even though Kuroto did not say anything, Shursui realized that his tone was not correct and apologized. "I am sorry, Kuroto-san, I was a little rude just now. I know you did this to clear up suspicions on me and for the sake of Uchiha clan, and yet I spoke as such. Please forgive my conduct." Shursui is obviously not stupid. He obviously understands that this is not the only reason Kuroto-san did so, but does it really matter? In the end, it did clear up the suspicions on him as well as paved a way for the Uchiha clan to integrate back to Konoha. Throughout the incident of Uchiha Hideki and Uchiha Ryota, the tension between Uchiha clan and Hokage faction has calmed down a little. Even people of Konoha have some sympathy for the Uchiha that their shinobi had to go through such attacks by Amatsukami. Overall, the emergence of Amatsukami has not only disrupted the Uchiha clan's plans for the coup by shifting their attention from rebelling against the Hokage faction to destroying the Amatsukami, but also forced them to unite with the Hokage faction if they want to be able to do so. If Uchiha clan alone plans to destroy Amatsukami or if the Hokage faction alone intends to annihilate Amatsukami, then that's just a pipe dream. As such, both the factions have no choice but to work together to deal with Amatsukami, and when people work together, they form emotional bonds which are hard to break, so the relationship between two sides will obviously be mended and the distrust will also disappear. Of course, all this will take time and continuous pressure. Kuroto did not say anything in regards to Shirsui's words. Clearing up Shirsui's name or preventing the annihilation of the Uchiha clan is not the only reason he conducted these tests. He obviously has his own reasons and selfishness involved, which he is obviously not going to mention to Shirsui for now. Therefore, instead of discussing this, he changed the topic and said, I am going to fuse these two pairs into a pair of eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. Shirsui was confused. Into an eternal Manjikyu Sharingan? From Shirsui's reaction, Kuroto can judge that he isn't yet aware of the secret of eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. In today's shinobi world, apart from Kuroto, Uchiha Shinichi, Uchiha Hideki, and Ryota brothers, and perhaps the Uchiha Patriarch, only Obito and Zetsu should be aware of what an eternal Manjikyu Sharingan is. And Kuroto thinks that Uchiha Fugaku would not be idiot enough to give out such critical and important secrets if not necessary for many reasons that aren't even needed to be explained. So, Kuroto thought a little and said, if I didn't guess wrong, your vision should have started to decline, right? Not to mention Shirsui's Manjikyu Sharingan pair, even the vision of Ryota's Manjikyu Sharingan pair that Kuroto used has started to decline because of such heavy use both the time. Even in the original series, Sasuke, who awakened the Manjikyu Sharingan, was nearly blind after using his Manjikyu Sharingan in only a few battles. Therefore it is not strange that Shirsui has had his Manjikyu for so many years and even used several times will start to have his vision declined. Shirsui did not hide this and nodded, yes, my eyesight has declined somewhat. Hearing Shirsui's words, Kuroto spoke, the reason why your patriarch chooses to keep his Manjikyu Sharingan hidden and would rarely use its power is also somewhat related to this issue. A Manjikyu Sharingan will always lose its vision after each use. Explaining up to here, Kuroto added, and that vision will keep declining until you become blind eventually, but eternal Manjikyu Sharingan is one of the ways to not only gain eternal eyesight but also increase the power of the Manjikyu Sharingan. Shirsui nodded, but there was something really puzzling him. I guess I understand that, but Kuroto-san, I have a question. Why do you know of so many secrets of the Uchiha clan that even I, as an Uchiha, is not aware of? Kuroto said, I learned these secrets from some hidden scrolls that I permanently borrowed from Shimura Danzo's root base, without taking his permission of course, and from what I can tell, Naidame-sama seems to have conducted quite a lot of research on Sharingan, and all that research was inherited by Danzo, and since I have borrowed some of that research, I managed to learn some secrets. Of course, that's a lie. Naidame-sama may have some research on Sharingan as Kuroto stated, but Kuroto neither needed to borrow it nor did he try to. But Shirsui does not need to know that. As long as the blame is put on Shimura Danzo or Naidame-sama, then everything is well and good for Kuroto. After all, these dead people and soon-to-be dead people must have some uses, right? Permanently borrowed without permission? Isn't that literally stealing? Forget it. Just think that you didn't hear any such information. Shirsui thought with an awkward smile. Kuroto said, well, from there I learned about eternal Manjikyu Sharingan and the method to gain it. After a short pause, Kuroto continued, and I plan to fuse these two pairs into a pair of eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, but before doing so, I still need something from the Uchiha clan that only you can bring me. It's called a transcription seal. Transcription seal, I seem to have heard that term before. Where have I heard it? Shirsui thought about this for a few seconds and then replied, right, I remember, I heard Patriarch mention this technique once. It is a technique that can seal a Manjikyu Sharingan dojutsu power into the targeted subject, which could be many things, like sealer's own Sharingan, other Sharingan, and into some other objects. This seal can activate when a certain requirement set by the sealer is fulfilled. Kuroto nodded, yes, that's exactly the one I am talking about. Shirsui hesitated a little, then said, I will try to ask Patriarch if he can teach it to me. As long as this technique is not too dangerous, I think he should agree to it. Now that the suspicions on him have been cleared up, so Shirsui is once again the second figure of the Uchiha clan, therefore, Uchiha Fugaku should not deny his request. What's more, transcription seal is not some kenjutsu like that of Izanami or Izanagi, so Uchiha Fugaku should agree to teach it to Shirsui. Kuroto nodded and said, after these two pairs are fused into a pair of eternal Manjikyu Sharingan, they will be kept with me for some time. When your eyes go completely blind in the future, make sure to inform me. I will replace your eyes with this pair of eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. Shursui shook his head. I don't think I will ever transplant that pair. It's better that I stay away from them. Deep down inside, Shursui was still resisting the two pairs of Manjikyu Sharingan in front of him. In regards to Shursui's words, Kuroto did not say much. He also understands Shursui's character, therefore, there was no need. Moreover, it will be a while before Shursui's eyes go completely blind because Shursui has always had an awe of Manjikyu Sharingan and has been very restrained in using it. Even the few times he has used Manjikyu Sharingan, he has mainly used Susanoo, did not once use Koto Amatsukami, so the speed with which his vision is dwindling is a bit slow. As long as he keeps this up, he should be fine for a few more years. With that out of the way, Kuroto resealed the two glass capsules in the sealing scroll and put the scroll away. At this time Shursui suddenly asked, Kuroto-san, you mentioned before that our method will delay the conflict between the clan and village, but it won't solve the conflict for good, and you also said that the situation in the village will change for the better in the future. What will be happening in the future? What is the way out for the Uchiha clan from all of this? Kuroto raised an eyebrow. He didn't expect Shursui to suddenly ask this question out of the blue and fell into a bit of contemplation. Shursui didn't interrupt Kuroto. While he was thinking, he sat in silence as he sipped the tea which was already cold, and ate the rice crackers. After a long silence, Kuroto recovered to his senses and said, Shursui, do you believe in fate? Fate? Shursui muttered to himself. He was puzzled why Kuroto-san would suddenly ask something that has no definitive answer, so after a bit of thinking, he shook his head. No, I don't believe in the so-called fate. Kuroto smiled bitterly as he said, yes, I don't believe in fate either, but what I want you to tell you, and what I want you to know is that this damn fate really exists. While Kuroto and Shursui were having a peaceful evening, the Hokage building was brightly lit and not having peaceful evening. Sandaime, the three elder advisors of Konoha, and Jiraiya sat together to discuss the matter of the upcoming second Gakage summit. Although Sarutobi Hiruzen was not very happy about Shimura Danzo's personal request with the Raikage to hold the second Gakage summit, he did not criticize Danzo for this. Because Danzo's reason is very good. Amatsukami has declared that they will be going after the 9 Bijou. This declaration directly implies that Amatsukami intends to make the enemy of all the shinobi villages who hold Bijou with them, and based on what little information about Amatsukami they have, only 3 of its members aside from the leader are known. As for how many other members have yet to make an appearance is completely a mystery. Therefore, it wouldn't be wrong to say that the organization is strong enough to be able to accomplish what they have declared unless the shinobi villages unite to resist Amatsukami. Otherwise, whether it is Konoha or Kumogakure, or any other shinobi village for that matter, it seems unlikely that any shinobi will be able to resist the combined might of Amatsukami alone. Therefore, it is very logical to hold the Gakage summit to discuss the plans on how to deal with Amatsukami. After he carefully read the report of the entire hunting operation submitted by Danzo, Sandaime frowned. So this member with the wind nature as his disguise has also appeared? Jiraiya nodded. I have seen him with my own eyes, it can't be wrong. Sandaime said with a sigh, it seems that Eagle and Cat of the team 11 did really encounter an ambush from 3 members of Amatsukami at once. Danzo said, if not for him to be able to escape with Homasubi by flying, we would have already captured him and Homasubi. Magnet release, huh? Sandaime had a thoughtful look. Different from ice release, magnet release Kekkei Genkai has an extraordinary significance in Sunigakure. The research of magnet release was started by Nidaime Kazekage, then passed on to Sandaime Kazekage, who went missing mysteriously, and is also the Kekkei Genkai that the Yondaime Kazekage uses. The Kazekage of the past 3 generations have mastered magnet release. Therefore, it wouldn't be wrong to say that once someone masters magnet release Kekkei Genkai, he will naturally gain the qualification to be a Kazekage candidate. So, it is difficult to imagine that someone who can be a Kazekage candidate would choose to betray the village and join an organization such as Amatsukami. Now that I think about it, Hyuga Kuroto once encountered a mysterious shinobi with magnet release Kekkei Genkai which resulted in the death of the root shinobi who was following him. Is it possible that that shinobi with the magnet release is the same one from Amatsukami? If they are the same, then how did Hyuga Kuroto manage to escape from him? Is it possible that Hyuga Kuroto's strength has increased to such a level? No, that seems unlikely for now. So, the other explanation could be that Hyuga Kuroto was not his target and the target was that root Umbu. Members of Amatsukami do not kill any shinobi who is not their target. This has been confirmed from their actions over and over, so it is possible. I guess we will have to look into that root Umbu's history to have a better understanding of why he was the target, and see if we can find anything about this shinobi with magnet release from there. Thought Sandaime. At this time, the elder consultant Udatane Koharu said, first, a mysterious shinobi with the Kekei Genkai of Kirigakure, then another mysterious shinobi with the Manjikyu Sharingan of the Uchiha clan from Konoha, now a shinobi with magnet release. If this continues, then will a next member pop out of nowhere with Shodaime-sama's would release. Moreover, how in the world is Amatsukami able to recruit shinobi with such sensitive identities? Are they really not afraid to make an enemy out of the 5 great shinobi villages? Mitokado Hamura said, it's difficult to say. After all, other than Shodaime-sama, nobody else has inherited the wood release, not even Senju Tsunade or her expired brother Senju Nawaki, who are descendants of Shodaime-sama, so I think that is unlikely to happen. Rather than caring about whether they are afraid or not, what she should be worried about is this fellow Yama. Just how strong is he to be considered a leader by such strong individuals? Jiraiya thought of the more important issue and said, since Amatsukami has declared that their targets are the Bijou, then Uzumaki Naruto's protection must be strengthened. As soon as Jiraiya's words fell, a glint in Danzo's eyes, and he immediately said, I propose that Root should be responsible for Uzumaki Naruto's protection. Jiraiya was immediately angry, are you kidding me? Sandaime chided Jiraiya a little then said to Danzo, I have made arrangements for the protection of Uzumaki Naruto, so you do not have to worry about it. Danzo, for now, your task is to continue gathering intelligence about Amatsukami and keep a watch of all their movements. Very little is known about this organization with its secretive behavior and unique methods of working through things. Now we have come to understand that Amatsukami is not something we can deal with by using the conventional approach, by using numbers or deterrence. So we have to change our methods, and I trust that you will be able to figure out the perfect method. Danzo was not frustrated by Sandaime's early words and nodded seriously after he heard the later part. I will make sure that Amatsukami is rooted out if it's the last thing I do. By the way, what plans do you have for the second Gakage summit? Sandaime pondered over Danzo's question. It stands to reason that he, as the current Hokage, should go from Konoha's side for the Gakage summit, but it highly likely that Amatsukami will take this opportunity to take advantage of his absence and cause all sorts of troubles, possibly even attempt to kidnap Uzumaki Naruto, who is the Jinchuriki of Kyubi. To make sure that such a thing does not happen, he has to stay in Konoha. After thinking a little, Sandaime ordered, Shimura Danzo, since you are the commander of suppression and encirclement operation, to hunt down Amatsukami. As such you will represent Konohagakure at the Gakage summit as my representative. Danzo seems to have expected such a thing and nodded as if it was only a natural thing. Do not worry, I will live up to your trust. With that, the meeting was concluded, and the 3 elder consultants left one after another. Now only Jiraiya and Sandaime were left in the Hokage office. Jiraiya has obviously stayed behind because he has something to discuss with Sandaime. Sensei, I am still a little worried about Naruto. With what happened to Minato it is difficult for me to forget it so easily if something were to happen to Naruto. Sandaime was not surprised by Jiraiya's words and said, do not worry, I am going to assign Umbu Team 11 with the mission of protecting Uzumaki Naruto. They are currently the strongest Umbu team in Konoha, as such he will be safe. Jiraiya was frozen. Team 11. Isn't this the same Umbu team that Uchiha Shursui is part of? The shinobi sect was founded by Rakudo Sennin. His intentions of spreading the ninshu among all was because he believed that power must not be concentrated within one individual and must be distributed among everyone so that people could understand each other on equal grounds. Only then can people develop love and understanding for each other. The teachings of ninshu were meant to give people a better understanding of themselves as well as others, and eventually lead the world towards peace. It was all because he believed that the chakra is meant to connect people's spiritual energies with one another. However, Rikudo Sennin's elder son, Otsutsuki Indra, did not follow his teachings, not being chosen as the successor of Ninshu and because of being manipulated by Black Zetsu. Indra weaponized Ninshu into ninjutsu, others followed his footsteps, and soon the 2 sons of Rikudo Sennin became the source of disputes in the shinobi world. From that first fight to this day, even if they have actually died, both brothers have been continuously fighting against each other. They reincarnate over and continue fighting each other. Their perpetual battle is like a curse that the shinobi world has been enduring for the past millennia. Even the main cause of grievances between the Uchiha clan and the Senju clan is none other than the reincarnations of Indra and Azura. The previous generation of Indra, Uchiha Madara, had his final battle with Azura of the previous generation, and that battle was also called the Battle of the Valley of the End. Although Uchiha Madara died in that battle, he greatly wounded Senju Hashirama in that battle, which made the already paranoid Senju Tobirama more vigilant of the Uchiha clan, fearing that another Uchiha Madara may again rise from this clan. The succeeding Hokage, Senju Tobirama, excluded the Uchiha clan from the central politics by making Uchiha clan responsible for the security of the village, and thus Konoha Military Police Force became a second name for the Uchiha clan, although Konoha Military Police Force seems to be a very glorified thing with honor and all, that is actually not true. By making Uchiha clan solely to be responsible for the security of the village and by establishing the Konoha Military Police Force next to the Konoha prison, Uchiha clan's movements were greatly restricted. They lost their power in the central politics and were now guards of the village with superficial authority and complete restrictions on their movements. Moreover, the police duties come with an added disadvantage. As such, all the clans started to distance themselves from the Uchiha clan. And the same policy was continued by Sandaime Hokage. If Yondaime-sama did not die, then maybe things would have turned for a better future, but unfortunately, he died on the night of the Kyuubi's attack. And Uchiha clan was silently deemed as the culprit responsible for the death of Yondaime Hokage. The Uchiha clan obviously can't continue bearing such unfair treatment, therefore the idea of coup germinated within their minds, which has led us to the current circumstances. Uchiha clan has fallen into such a precarious situation. It is not an exaggeration to say that it is fate, right? What exactly is fate? What exactly is a person's fate? Events that we don't have control over are what Kuroto defines as fate. And Kuroto is very disgusted with such things as fate or destiny, because fate also implies that everything has been prearranged and no amount of effort can change what's prearranged. No amount of effort will allow you to resist what has already been decided for you. You will never be able to change anything. It is as if personal effort and hard work one put in everything all amount to naught and meaningless in the face of the so-called fate and destiny. Can fate really not be changed? Kuroto, who has been trying to resist the so-called fate, has always wanted many things to change, but even he is not sure whether the fate that has been intervening the shinobi world can be changed or not. Shursui looked at Kuroto's face that had an uncertain look. Shursui was also a bit worried. Kuroto-san, are you alright? Kuroto sighed and did not think about all this extremely complicated stuff anymore. Smiling bitterly, he said to Shursui, "It's nothing. I am no longer able to figure out the direction that this shinobi world will progress in." Why did you suddenly mention the topic of fate? Shursui asked in confusion. Then, as if he suddenly realized something, Shursui exclaimed, "Could it be? Does it mean that the Uchiha clan is fated to doom? Is there no way?" Kuroto shook his head. "Don't worry. Whether it is fated or not no longer matters. I have given you my words, and I certainly intend to keep them. I will not let Uchiha clan be destroyed, and I will not get back on my words. The Uchiha clan will not only not be destroyed but also gain everything it truly deserves as the co-founding clan, regardless of how much time and whatever means it takes. I will make it happen. This is my promise to you, Shursui, both as a friend and as the leader of Amatsukami." Kuroto firmly believes that as long as someone is powerful enough, they can have complete control over how things around him will progress. Although Kuroto can't control everything now, he can make it so that many of the major things change. As long as one works hard enough, everything is possible. Fate or destiny may as well be a shackle that restricts you, but it is not indestructible that you won't ever be able to break free of it. Shursui was really emotional by what Kuroto said. He couldn't describe how glad he felt when Kuroto said those words. All he could speak was, "Thank you so much, Kuroto-san, your assurance means a lot to me. No matter how much effort I have to put in or how much trouble I have to go through, I will continue to follow your lead, here and now. I swear that I, Uchiha Shursui, will always be loyal to you, be that a Shursui of the Uchiha clan, Homosubi of Amatsukami, or Cat of Umbu Team 11. Kuroto was surprised by Shursui's words. Swearing eternal loyalty is a very big decision, and the fact that Shursui chooses to do so really surprised Kuroto. Kuroto did not deny it. Shursui is a truly loyal person, the most trustworthy person Kuroto could have ever asked for. Therefore, he did not deny Shursui's decision. Because this decision represents Shursui's conviction, and if Kuroto were to deny it, then he would be disrespecting Shursui's determination, which he does not intend to do. So, all he did was smiling slightly and ruffled Shursui's hair slightly. With that, the serious talks came to an end. Kuroto and Shursui also discussed many things about various techniques, Genjutsu in particular. Kuroto has never really touched the field of Genjutsu, but now that he has Sharingan in his hand, Kuroto obviously plans to not let this opportunity go to waste. So, Shursui, who is undoubtedly one of the best genjutsu users in not only Konoha but the entire shinobi world, gave Kuroto a lot of insight into this new field. The discussions continued. Soon the sun dipped in the northwest horizon and it was already past the twilight. Both of them didn't know that Yui had returned home some time ago and the dinner was already prepared. By the time Kuroto and Shursui's discussion came to an end, the dinner was already set up on the dining table. Looking at so many dishes set up before him, Shursui couldn't help but salivate slightly. It has been so long since he has had such an incredible feast. Yui giggled at Shursui's childish antics. The three of them soon got busy with the food, talking, laughing, discussing many light topics during the meal. The atmosphere was very cheerful, giving an illusion as if they were no longer living in this war-ridden shinobi world. No burden was placed on any of their shoulders. Between the talks, the food was already finished, and Shursui undoubtedly ate the most. Yui was happy that Shursui liked her cooking. After the meal, Shursui expressed his gratefulness to Yui for letting him have such delicious food and promised that he would take extra care of Kuroto-san during the mission, especially when they encounter Amatsukami, and then left. While Kuroto and Shursui were having a peaceful evening, the Hokage building was brightly lit and not having peaceful evening. Sandaime, the three elder advisors of Konoha, and Jiraiya sat together to discuss the matter of the upcoming second Gakage summit. Although Sarutobi Hiruzen was not very happy about Shimura Danzo's personal request with the Raikage to hold the second Gakage summit, he did not criticize Danzo for this. Because Danzo's reason is very good. Amatsukami has declared that they will be going after the 9 Bijou. This declaration directly implies that Amatsukami intends to make the enemy of all the shinobi villages who hold Bijou with them, and based on what little information about Amatsukami they have, only 3 of its members aside from the leader are known. As for how many other members have yet to make an appearance is completely a mystery. Therefore, it wouldn't be wrong to say that the organization is strong enough to be able to accomplish what they have declared unless the shinobi villages unite to resist Amatsukami. Otherwise, whether it is Konoha or Kumogakure, or any other shinobi village for that matter, it seems unlikely that any shinobi will be able to resist the combined might of Amatsukami alone. Therefore, it is very logical to hold the Gakage summit to discuss the plans on how to deal with Amatsukami. After he carefully read the report of the entire hunting operation submitted by Danzo, Sandaime frowned. So this member with the wind nature as his disguise has also appeared? Jiraiya nodded. I have seen him with my own eyes, it can't be wrong. Sandaime said with a sigh, it seems that Eagle and Cat of the team 11 did really encounter an ambush from 3 members of Amatsukami at once. Danzo said, if not for him to be able to escape with Homosubi by flying, we would have already captured him and Homosubi. Magnet release, huh? Sandaime had a thoughtful look. Different from ice release, magnet release Kekkei Genkai has an extraordinary significance in Sunigakure. The research of magnet release was started by Nidaime Kazekage, then passed on to Sandaime Kazekage, who went missing mysteriously, and is also the Kekkei Genkai that the Yondaime Kazekage uses. The Kazekage of the past 3 generations have mastered magnet release. Therefore, it wouldn't be wrong to say that once someone masters magnet release Kekkei Genkai, he will naturally gain the qualification to be a Kazekage candidate. So, it is difficult to imagine that someone who can be a Kazekage candidate would choose to betray the village and join an organization such as Amatsukami. Now that I think about it, Hyuga Kuroto once encountered a mysterious shinobi with magnet release Kekkei Genkai which resulted in the death of the root shinobi who was following him. Is it possible that that shinobi with the magnet release is the same one from Amatsukami? If they are the same, then how did Hyuga Kuroto manage to escape from him? Is it possible that Hyuga Kuroto's strength has increased to such a level? No, that seems unlikely for now. So, the other explanation could be that Hyuga Kuroto was not his target and the target was that Root Umbu. Members of Amatsukami do not kill any shinobi who is not their target. This has been confirmed from their actions over and over, so it is possible. I guess we will have to look into that Root Umbu's history to have a better understanding of why he was the target, and see if we can find anything about this shinobi with magnet release from there. Thought Sandaime. At this time, the elder consultant Udatane Koharu said, first, a mysterious shinobi with the Kekkei Genkai of Kirigakure, then another mysterious shinobi with the Manjikyu Sharingan of the Uchiha clan from Konoha, now a shinobi with magnet release. If this continues, then will a next member pop out of nowhere with Shodaime Sama's would release. Moreover, how in the world is Amatsukami able to recruit shinobi with such sensitive identities? Are they really not afraid to make an enemy out of the 5 great shinobi villages? Mitokado Hamura said, "It's difficult to say, after all, other than Shodame-sama, nobody else has inherited the wood release, not even Senju Tsunade or her expired brother Senju Nawaki, who are descendants of Shodame-sama, so I think that is unlikely to happen." Rather than caring about whether they are afraid or not, what she should be worried about is this fellow Yama. Just how strong is he to be considered a leader by such strong individuals? Jiraiya thought of the more important issue and said, since Amatsukami has declared that their targets are the Bijou, then Uzumaki Naruto's protection must be strengthened. As soon as Jiraiya's words fell, a glint in Danzo's eyes, and he immediately said, "I propose that Root should be responsible for Uzumaki Naruto's protection." Jiraiya was immediately angry, "Are you kidding me?" Sandame chided Jiraiya a little then said to Danzo, "I have made arrangements for the protection of Uzumaki Naruto, so you do not have to worry about it. Danzo, for now, your task is to continue gathering intelligence about Amatsukami and keep a watch of all their movements. Very little is known about this organization with its secretive behavior and unique methods of working through things. Now we have come to understand that Amatsukami is not something we can deal with by using the conventional approach, by using numbers or deterrence. So we have to change our methods, and I trust that you will be able to figure out the perfect method." Danzo was not frustrated by Sandame's early words and nodded seriously after he heard the later part. "I will make sure that Amatsukami is rooted out if it's the last thing I do. By the way, what plans do you have for the second Gakage summit?" Sandame pondered over Danzo's question. It stands to reason that he, as the current Hokage, should go from Konoha's side for the Gakage summit, but it highly likely that Amatsukami will take this opportunity to take advantage of his absence and cause all sorts of troubles, possibly even attempt to kidnap Uzumaki Naruto, who is the Jinchuriki of Kyubi. To make sure that such a thing does not happen, he has to stay in Konoha. After thinking a little, Sandame ordered, "Shimura Danzo, since you are the commander of suppression and encirclement operation, to hunt down Amatsukami. As such you will represent Konohagakure at the Gakage summit as my representative." Danzo seems to have expected such a thing and nodded as if it was only a natural thing. "Do not worry, I will live up to your trust." With that, the meeting was concluded, and the three elder consultants left one after another. Now only Jiraiya and Sandame were left in the Hokage office. Jiraiya has obviously stayed behind because he has something to discuss with Sandame. "Sensei, I am still a little worried about Naruto. With what happened to Minato it is difficult for me to forget it so easily if something were to happen to Naruto." Sandame was not surprised by Jiraiya's words and said, "Do not worry, I am going to assign Anbu Team 11 with the mission of protecting Uzumaki Naruto. They are currently the strongest Anbu team in Konoha, as such he will be safe." Jiraiya was frozen. Team 11. Isn't this the same Anbu team that Uchiha Shisui is part of? Hearing Jiraiya's worry, Sandame said, "Uchiha Shisui also has Manjikyu Sharingan, therefore he is the best candidate from the Anbu to contend with Homosubi. What's more, Hyuga Kuroto, Might Guy and the captain of the team Hatake Kakashi will also be there. So, this Team 11 is the most suitable Anbu team to protect Uzumaki Naruto. As such, there should be no problem in regards to Naruto's safety. There is Manjikyu Sharingan, Byakugan with sensory purpose, Minato's disciple is also there, and finally Might Dai's son is also in the team." "You are right, Sensei. Team 11 indeed seems to be the most stable choice to ensure Naruto's safety." Jiraiya nodded with a smile and continued, "So I can leave with confidence." Sandame frowned. "Leave? Where are you going to leave?" "First and foremost, Gakage Summit is going to be held soon, as such no shinobi other than the team that will go to the predetermined location will be allowed to leave the village for any reason. Secondly, this is an order from me, you are no longer allowed to continue your travels in this period of emergency." Jiraiya put away his smile and said with a serious expression, "I want to bring back Tsunade. The threat that Amatsukami poses is too great. They are not doing massive damages to the manpower for now, but we don't know if that will remain the case in the future, so the village would definitely need her strength whether as a medical nin or as a combatant." Tsunade. Hearing Tsunade's name being mentioned, Sandame couldn't help but remember the days when he instructed the three children who later came to be known as the legendary Sannin. Sigh. "I wonder if she will choose to come back. Moreover, you should also be aware of her." Jiraiya did not let Sandame finish that sentence and said, "I will definitely bring her back." Sandame sighed. He did not say anything more about it. If Jiraiya can really bring back Tsunade, then a lot of things will be solved. So, after nodding slightly, he closed up this matter and questioned another matter. "You have personally observed the battlefield where Yandame Reikage and the Jinchuriki of Hachibi fought with the two members of Amatsukami. What is your personal opinion on this?" Jiraiya thought for a while and then said, if not for the fact that I personally saw that battlefield with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed that only 4 shinobi caused so much destruction, and from what Reikage has stated, most of the damage to the battlefield was caused by Homosubi, Reikage, Killer Bee, or the other member of Amatsukami played less part in that damage. Sandaime asked again, and what about the report about that unique golden fire? Is it the same golden fire that appeared at the mountain a few days ago? Jiraiya nodded, yes, all the characteristics match. From what Uchiha Shursui can think of, those golden flames are probably a special ability of Homosubi Susanoo, therefore we can assume that it was Homosubi who was responsible for the destruction of that mountain. The flames are extremely hot and very difficult to put down. The last time I had to use Senjutsu-infused water release, and only then the golden fire was extinguished. This time Killer Bee used water release infused with Hachibi's dense chakra and that managed to extinguish the fire, therefore we can assume that normal water release will not work on that golden fire. Sandaime was shocked, because that golden fire is now a bigger issue. If Homosubi just lit Konoha with that golden fire, then the whole village will burn down to ashes unless Jiraiya is. Wait. Fuinjutsu should also work in dealing with that golden fire. While Sandaime was thinking, Jiraiya continued, what I am more concerned about is the identity of the person Homosubi was fighting against at that mountain. After all, the opponent would definitely not be so simple for Homosubi to resort to using such power that literally destroyed entire mountain and so much area around it. One after another more and more unidentified individuals with Kage or a higher level of strength are appearing in the shinobi world, and this has only made Sandaime feel more pressured. Go and get Tsunade back to Konohagakure, ordered Sandaime. 2 days later, Kuroto received the Sandaime-sama's order for the summon of Anbu Team 11. After the 4 members of Team 11 were gathered at the Hokage office, Sandaime ordered that their previous mission was officially put to a stop and then assigned a new mission. Taking the scroll from Sandaime, all 4 of them read the content. After the team was finished reading all the details, Sandaime ordered, from now on until ordered otherwise, Team 11 will only perform one mission, and that mission is to ensure the safety of Uzumaki Naruto. Captain of Team 11, Hatake Kakashi, who wearing his dog Anbu uniform, nodded seriously after realizing the seriousness of the matter based on the information written in the scroll. Kakashi obviously knows that Uzumaki Naruto is his teacher's, Yondaime Hokage Namake's Minato's son, therefore, Kakashi is really very concerned about Naruto's safety after reading the details that Amatsukami will start targeting 9 Bijou. The other 3 members of the team did not have any issues, so they naturally did not object. With the mission assigned, the 4 of them left the Hokage building. While the team was leaving the Hokage building, Uchiha Shursui and Hyuga Kuroto, who were in their Cat Anbu and Eagle Anbu disguise, looked at each other. From the fact that Sandaime-sama has assigned the mission to ensure Uzumaki Naruto's safety, it can be understood that the village authorities have believed that Amatsukami's next targets are 9 Bijou, and therefore, Hokage-sama has made corresponding deployments. The 4 came to their usual meetup point, and at this time Kakashi said, we will follow the same approach as always. Team 11 will be divided into 2 sub-teams and will keep a watch over Uzumaki Naruto alternately. None of the 3 members of the team had any objection. Obviously, all 4 of them cannot keep a watch over Uzumaki Naruto 24 hours every day, therefore, making sub-teams is only natural. Before Kakashi could subgroup them into 2 teams, Shursui raised his hand. In that case, it should be fine if I and Kuroto-san are a team, right? Kakashi was not so surprised by Shursui's question. Over the years, he has come to understand that Kuroto and Shursui's understanding is very good, and generally both of them forms a group if a subgrouping has to be done, so he just looked towards Kuroto, and seeing that Kuroto nodded, so he also did not object and said, alright, you 2 will be a sub-team, and I and Guy will be sub-team. We will work in shifts of 8 hours each, and after every 8 hours we will switch. For the first 8 hours I and Guy will keep a watch, and then both of you will switch. The 4 of them agreed, and with that, Kakashi and Guy did not waste any more time and immediately went to start the mission of protecting Uzumaki Naruto from Amatsukami. After Kakashi and Guy were gone, Shursui asked, so, Kuroto-san, how should we work on keeping a watch over Uzumaki Naruto? Kuroto said casually, just send a shadow clone for now. Are you really going to go guard that kid all day? Shursui sighed, alright if you say so. By the way, Patriarch agreed to my request and passed me the scroll of the transcription seal. As soon as Kuroto heard this, he was really happy. Great. Shursui said, the transcription seal is not that difficult, even I managed to learn it in just these 2 days. It does not even require hand seals to use it and is purely activated using visual prowess. According to the Patriarch, only members of the Uchiha clan can use transcription seal. Speaking up to here, Shursui handed the scroll to Kuroto and continued, so I am not sure if you will be able to learn this technique. Kuroto thought a little and said, I will think of something. If nothing else works, then I could just transplant a pair of Manjikyu Sharingan to learn it. Shursui nodded. Kuroto put away the scroll and said, I also need some of your blood as well as other cell tissues. Shursui did not think too much about this request, nor did he deny it, and allowed Kuroto to extract blood samples as well as cell tissues from nails, hair, skin peelings, etc. After collecting the cells, Kuroto bid farewell to Shursui and came to his secret laboratory. The first thing he did was to properly store all the cells he extracted from Shursui. The next thing he did was to spread the scroll he received from Shursui and started studying it seriously. The visual prowess is not unique to the Uchiha clan. If the requirement to be able to use the transcription seal is to have strong enough visual prowess, then Kuroto should also be able to learn and use the transcription seal, because he has the Tenseigan. With that understood, Kuroto earnestly focused on learning the transcription seal, based on the information written in the scroll. It was only a few hours later that he finally nodded to himself. Shursui was right, it truly is not as difficult as I initially thought it would be. After these few hours of studying, Kuroto has roughly understood the functioning and mechanism of the transcription seal. Now all he has to do is use it practically. If you want to support me, check out my Patreon at https://www.patreon.com/Kaioshin. I tend to polls that decide important plot stuff in my P at Trian. Many thanks to my awesome patrons: Ben Phillips, Yami Tancho, Harold Martinsons, Kenny Nielsen. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be here until next time.